Caleb Martinez looked out the viewport of the transport ship as it approached Helios' maximum security facility. The massive prison station hung in space like a metal spider, its 8 wings extending from a central hub. Behind it, the dying red star cast an eerie glow across the structure's dark surface. This would be his home for the next 5 years. "First time seeing it?" asked the pilot. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" "Yes," Martinez said. "Bigger than I expected." The pilot laughed. "Built to hold the worst criminals in the universe. 500. Cells, state-of-the-art security, and nowhere to escape to accept the vacuum of space." Martinez nodded. At 38, he was the youngest warden ever appointed to Helios. After 15 years working his way up through Earth's prison system, this promotion should have felt like a victory. Instead, as they docked with the station, he felt only unease. The airlock hissed open, and Deputy Warden Susan Wright waited. On the other side, she was tall with short gray hair and eyes that looked like they hadn't seen sleep in weeks. "Welcome to Helios, Warden Martinez," she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, but her fingers trembled slightly. "I trust. Your journey was comfortable?" "As comfortable as a 3-week trip in suspended animation can be," Martinez replied. "I'm eager to get started." Wright nodded and led him through the stark white corridors. Few guards patrolled the halls, and those they passed looked nervous. "The official tour can wait until tomorrow," Wright said. "I think we should talk privately." "First," Martinez frowned. This wasn't protocol. "Is there a problem, Deputy?" Wright didn't answer until they reached her office. The door closed behind them with a heavy thud. "Sit down, Warden." Wright gestured to a chair and then moved to a cabinet where she poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. She handed one to Martinez. "You'll need this." Martinez accepted the drink but didn't sip. "What's going on?" "The station seems understaffed." Wright downed her drink in one gulp. "Because it is. The reports we've been sending to Galactic Corrections don't tell the whole truth." She looked at him directly. "We had 527 inmates 3 months ago. As of this morning, we have 53. Martinez set his glass down. "That's impossible. There haven't been any transfer orders, and no one escapes from Helios." "No one has escaped," Wright said. "They're just gone." "Gone? People don't just vanish, Deputy." Wright pulled up a holographic display showing a cell. The timestamp showed 2:34. A prisoner slept on his bunk. At 2:37, the image flickered slightly. By 2:38, the cell was empty except for a dark, wet spot on the floor. "This happened last week," Wright said. "Felix Ramirez, serving 3 life sentences for bombing a civilian transport. No alarms triggered, no doors opened. He was simply gone." Martinez watched the footage again. "A technology malfunction? Some kind of teleportation device?" "We've scanned for every known technology. Nothing. We've told Galactic Corrections it's a viral outbreak to avoid panic. But ... Her voice trailed off. "How many staff have you lost?" Martinez asked. 12. 4 guards, 3 medical personnel, 2 maintenance workers, and 3 kitchen staff. Martinez felt cold. This wasn't what he had signed up for. Why wasn't I? Informed before accepting this position, would you have come? Wright asked. Before Martinez could answer, his tablet beeped. A message flashed across the screen. "Emergency in cell block." C. Wright's face went pale. Not another one. They rushed through the corridors to cell block C. 2 guards stood outside an open cell, their weapons drawn. "Report," Martinez ordered, surprising himself with his authoritative tone. "Prisoner Alan Gregory, sir," one guard said. "He was here for evening check. When we came back 20 minutes later for lockdown, he was gone." Martinez stepped into the cell. It was standard issue bed, toilet, sink, small desk. On the floor was a damp spot, already drying at the edges. "Has anyone analyzed this residue?" Martinez asked. "Dr. Bennett in medical has samples, right?" Said, "She hasn't been able to identify it yet." Martinez kneeled to look closer, careful not to touch it. The spot had a strange shimmer, almost like oil on water. "I want 24-hour surveillance on all remaining prisoners," Martinez said. "No one sleeps alone. Guards pair up on all shifts. And I want to see all the footage of previous disappearances." Wright nodded. "Yes, sir." That night, Martinez couldn't sleep. He reviewed personnel files of the remaining prisoners, looking for connections. Nothing stood out except that the disappearances had started in the high-security wing with the most dangerous offenders. His door chimed at 2 a.m. It was Wright, looking even more exhausted than before. "You should see this," she said. She led him to the monitoring room, where a guard pulled up footage of a cell containing a prisoner sitting perfectly still in the corner. According to the file, his name was Gabriel Howard, sentenced to life for murders across 7 planets. "He hasn't moved in 6 hours," the guard said. "Hasn't eaten in 3 days either. Why is this significant?" Martinez asked. "Because he used to be the most social inmate we had," Wright explained. "Always talking, always manipulating. Now, he just sits there, and he's the only prisoner in his wing who hasn't disappeared." Martinez studied Howard on the screen. Something about the man's stillness felt wrong. It wasn't the stillness of meditation or sleep. It was the stillness of a predator waiting. "Put an extra guard on him," Martinez ordered. As they left the monitoring room, Wright stopped him. "There's something else you should know. The official records say this facility has never had an incident in its 15 years of operation." "That's not true?" Martinez asked. Wright shook her head. "There was one about 8 years ago. A prisoner claimed another inmate had ... changed somehow. Said he watched him melt into a puddle and slip through the air vent. Everyone thought he was crazy." "What happened to the prisoner who made the claim?" "He was found dead in his cell. A week later, the official cause was heart failure." Wright looked at Martinez with fear in her eyes. But according to the medical report, his internal organs had been digested. Martinez felt a chill run down his spine as his tablet beeped again. Another emergency alert flashed across the screen. In the few minutes they had been talking, 2 more prisoners had vanished. Whatever was happening on Helios, Martinez realized, it was accelerating. And somehow, he knew Gabriel Howard was at the center of it all. Morning came too quickly for Martinez. He had slept poorly, his dreams filled with shadows that moved like liquid and prisoners who vanished into thin air. He showered, dressed in his new warden's uniform, and headed to the command center to assemble his team. Frank Diaz, the head of security, was a broad-shouldered man with a buzz cut and 20 years of military experience. Olivia Bennett, the medical officer, was younger with quick eyes that missed nothing. Peter Kim, the systems analyst, was thin and nervous, his fingers always moving as if typing on invisible keyboards. "We lost 2 more last night," Martinez began. "That brings our total to 51 missing inmates in 3 months, plus 12 staff members. 63 people don't just disappear," Diaz said. "Sir, with all due respect, I've been saying for weeks that we should evacuate." Martinez shook his head. "Evacuation is a last resort. These are the most dangerous criminals in the galaxy. The transport risk alone would put countless lives in danger." Bennett cleared her throat. "I've been analyzing the residue found in the empty cells." She pulled up a holographic display showing microscopic images. "It contains human DNA, but it's mixed with an enzyme I've never seen before. This enzyme can break down organic matter in seconds." "Like digestion?" Martinez asked. "Exactly like digestion," Bennett confirmed. but much faster and more efficient than any known species. Kim raised his hand slightly. I've been reviewing the security systems. Someone has been creating blind spots in our surveillance network. The room went quiet. What kind of blind spots? Diaz demanded. Small ones. Just a few seconds here and there. Not enough to notice unless you're looking for them. Kim pulled up the security logs. And here's the strange part. The access codes used belong to guards who are now missing. Martinez felt a chill. So whatever is happening, it's getting smarter, learning our systems. I want to show you something else, Bennett said. She switched the display to show cell block F, where Gabriel Howard sat motionless in his cell. He hasn't eaten in 5 days now, but look at his medical scans. The display showed 2 body scans, side by side. The left is from when he arrived. 2 years ago, Bennett explained. The right is from yesterday. Even to Martinez's untrained eye, the differences were clear. Howard's muscle mass had increased. His bone density was higher, and there were strange shadows throughout his internal. Organs that hadn't been there before. He should be starving, Bennett said. Instead, he's healthier than when he arrived. I want to talk to him, Martinez decided. That's not advisable, sir, Diaz said. Howard is extremely dangerous. 7 confirmed kills before he was caught. But authorities suspect the real number is much higher. I'll take that under advisement, Martinez replied. In the meantime, I want round-the-clock surveillance on him. If he so much as blinks wrong, I want to know about it. The team dispersed to their duties, leaving Martinez alone with Wright. There's something else you should see, she said, leading him to a secure room deep in the administrative section. Inside was a simple table with a metal box on it. Wright entered a code and the box opened, revealing a small, shimmering object. What is that? Martinez asked. We don't know. It was found in Howard's possession when he was arrested. No one could identify it. Wright didn't touch the object. Every test showed it was inert, just an odd metal. But Howard fought like a wild animal when they tried to take it from him. Martinez leaned closer. The object was roughly the size of a coin, but shaped like a teardrop. Its surface shifted colors like oil on water, the same effect he had seen in the residue on the cell floors. Has anyone handled it directly? Martinez asked. Not that I know of. The previous warden ordered it locked away and forgotten. Right? Closed the box. I thought you should know it existed. Later that day, Martinez found himself standing outside Howard's cell. The prisoner hadn't moved from his spot in the corner, sitting with his back against the wall, eyes open but unfocused. Gabriel Howard, Martinez said. I'm Warden Martinez. Howard's eyes slowly shifted to focus on him. A small smile appeared on his face, but he said nothing. We're investigating the disappearances, Martinez continued. I thought you might have noticed something, given that you're the only inmate left in this block. Howard's smile widened. When he spoke, his voice was soft and raspy from disuse. Noticed? Yes, I've noticed many things, Warden. The way the lights flicker before each one goes. The small sounds they make, like drinking through a straw. Martinez felt his skin crawl. Who makes these sounds? Howard just smiled wider. You know something about what's happening here, Martinez pressed. I know everything about what's happening here, Howard replied. Then soon, so will you. Martinez turned to leave, disturbed by the conversation, when Howard spoke again. When was the last time you checked on Dr. Bennett, Warden? She was very interested in my blood samples earlier today. Martinez froze. What do you mean? Just that. Curiosity can be dangerous. You should check on her. Martinez rushed to the medical bay. He found it empty, with equipment still running and Bennett's coffee still warm on her desk. On the floor was a familiar damp spot. Locked down the station. Martinez ordered into his communicator, "All personnel to secure positions. This is not a drill." As alarms blared throughout the facility, Martinez stared at the microscope Bennett had been using. On the slide was a sample of what appeared to be normal blood. But as he watched, the blood cells began to move on their own, gathering together and pulsing as if alive and aware. His communicator beeped. It was Diaz. "Sir, we found something in the security footage from outside Howard's cell. You need to see this." Martinez hurried to the security office. Diaz and Kim were waiting, their faces pale. "We slowed it down and enhanced it," Kim explained, playing the footage. The video showed a guard walking past Howard's cell at night. As the guard passed, Howard's body seemed to ripple, becoming liquid-like. A thin tendril extended between the cell bars, touching the guard's ankle. Within seconds, the guard collapsed silently to the floor, his body dissolving as Howard's tendril grew thicker, drawing the liquefied remains back into the cell. "What the hell is he?" Diaz whispered. Martinez thought of the shimmering object. In Wright's box and Howard's strange words. The truth was becoming clear, and it was more horrifying than he could have imagined. "He's not human," Martinez said. "And I don't think he ever was." The station remained on lockdown as Martinez, Diaz, and Kim huddled in the security office. The footage of Howard absorbing the guard played on a loop on one screen. On another, Howard sat in his cell, still and calm despite the alarms. "We need to contact Galactic Corrections immediately," Diaz said. "Request emergency evacuation." "Communications are down," Kim replied, typing frantically. "I can't get any signal out." Martinez wasn't surprised. He planned this, all of it. "Sir, with all respect, he's locked in a cell," Diaz argued. Martinez pointed to the footage. "Does that look like someone who's contained to you? He's been playing with us. The cell isn't holding him. He's staying there by choice." A scream echoed through the station's communication system. Then another, and another. "Where's that coming from?" Martinez demanded. Kim checked the system. "Cell block D, where we moved. The remaining prisoners after last night's disappearances. On screen now." The display switched to cell block D. The scene was chaos. Liquid tendrils slid under doors and through vents. They wrapped around screaming prisoners, dissolving them where they stood. Guards fired weapons, but the shots passed through the liquid forms with no effect. "How is he doing this?" Diaz whispered. "He's still in his cell." Martinez remembered Bennett's medical scans. "He's not just in his cell. He's everywhere. Those missing people, he's absorbed them somehow, taken their DNA, their knowledge. He can spread himself throughout the station." As if in response to Martinez's realization, Howard looked directly at the camera in his cell and smiled. "We need to find Deputy Wright," Martinez said. "And we need to get to that object they took from Howard when he arrived." They made their way through the corridors carefully. The screens had stopped, which made the silence even more terrifying. They found Wright in her office, barricaded behind her desk, a weapon in her trembling hands. "Don't come any closer," she shouted. "Susan, it's us," Martinez said calmly. "We need to get to that object you showed me." Wright lowered her weapon slightly. "I saw Bennett in the hallway, but it wasn't her. Her arms ... they weren't arms anymore." "I know," Martinez said. "We don't have much time." "The box, Susan. Where is it now?" Wright stood on shaky legs. "This way." They moved as a group through the deserted halls. Twice they had to change route when they spotted strange liquid shadows moving along the floor or walls. Finally, they reached the secure room. The box was where Wright had left it. "What exactly are you thinking?" Diaz asked as Martinez opened the box and stared at the shimmering teardrop. "I think this is related to what Howard really is," Martinez said. He was desperate to keep it. Maybe it's important to him somehow. Kim leaned closer to look at the object. It almost looks like it's alive. Don't touch it, Martinez warned. He picked up the box. We'll take it with us. We need to get to the command center and try to restore communications. They had just reached the corridor when they heard a wet, slithering sound. A mass of shimmering liquid moved toward them from both ends of the hallway. Run! Martinez shouted. They sprinted down a side passage, the liquid mass surging after them. They reached a maintenance shaft and climbed down, sealing the hatch behind them. It won't hold for long, Diaz said. They continued through the narrow maintenance tunnels until they reached the lower level of the command center. As they climbed up to the main floor, they found themselves face to face with Howard. He stood calmly in the center of the room, looking more solid and real than he had in his cell. Behind him, several partly formed human shapes moved jerkily, as if puppets on strings. Warden Martinez, Howard said, his voice now rich and deep, you've brought my seed. How thoughtful. Martinez clutched the box tighter. What are you? Howard smiled. I am evolution, adaptation, survival. He gestured to the half-formed shapes behind him. They are becoming part of me. Just as you will. One of the shapes stepped forward, and Martinez recognized what was left of Dr. Bennett. Her face was mostly intact, but her body rippled unnaturally. The process is fascinating, Bennett's voice said, though her lips didn't move perfectly with the words. He absorbs not just our bodies, but our knowledge, our memories. I understand now. He's perfect. You're not Bennett, Martinez said. I have all her memories, the thing said, all her knowledge. In a way, I am more Bennett than Bennett ever was. Howard stepped closer. You've seen what I can do. The box you're holding contains what you might call my seed. A piece of my home. World, the last of my kind, sent out among the stars to find new feeding grounds. You're an alien, Martinez said. Such a simple word for what I am, Howard replied. My kind evolved to hunt by infiltration. We take the shape of our prey, learn their ways, then consume them from within. Why stay in the cell? Diaz asked. If you could escape any time? Howard laughed. Where else would I find such a perfect hunting ground? Isolated, contained. No one enters or leaves without strict protocols. I could feed at my leisure. He looked at Martinez. Until you arrived and accelerated my timetable. The communications, Kim said suddenly. You shut them down because you're planning to leave. Very good, Howard nodded. I've consumed enough to sustain me for the journey, and I've learned everything I need about your worlds, your defenses. There are billions waiting to be harvested. Martinez felt sick. We won't let that happen. You have no choice, Howard said. His body began to change, growing larger. The half-formed shapes behind him melted and flowed into him. I've absorbed 63 beings so far. Their strength is my strength. Their knowledge is my knowledge. Wright raised her weapon and fired. The shots passed through Howard's body, leaving rippling holes that closed immediately. Howard moved with incredible speed. One moment he was across the room. The next he stood before Wright. A tendril extended from his hand, touching her face. She screamed as her skin began to dissolve. Run! Martinez shouted to Kim and Diaz. He threw the box containing the seed at Howard and pushed his remaining team toward the emergency exit. Howard lunged for the box, momentarily distracted. It gave them just enough time to escape through the door and seal it behind them. As they ran through the emergency corridors, Martinez knew they had only minutes before Howard would find them. Again, we need a plan, Diaz said, breathing hard as they stopped to regroup. Martinez looked at them grimly. I think I know how to stop him, but you're not going to like it. Martinez, Diaz, and Kim moved quickly through the emergency corridors of Helios Station. The red emergency lights cast long shadows as they ran. "What's your plan?" Diaz asked. His weapon ready, though they all knew it would be useless against Howard, the station's reactor, Martinez replied. "If we can't contain him, we have to make sure he never reaches a populated world." Kim's eyes widened. "You want to blow up the station? With us on it?" "I want to try something else first," Martinez said. "But we need to be ready for the worst option." They reached a small maintenance room filled with equipment. Martinez sealed the door and activated the emergency terminal. "Computer," he said. "Access personnel file, Gabriel Howard." The screen lit up with Howard's records. Martinez scrolled through them quickly. "There," he said, pointing to a section labeled Origin. "Just like I thought. Howard was found as a baby near a crash site on a remote farming planet. The couple who found him adopted him and raised him as their own. So he really is an alien." Kim said, "Yes, and now we know how he got here." Martinez continued reading. "His crimes began shortly after puberty. That must be when his true nature started to emerge." "Why are we looking at his file?" Diaz asked. "We should be setting the reactor to overload, because we need to understand what we're dealing with," Martinez replied. "Look at this medical data from when he was first captured. His cellular structure is unlike anything human, but it has weaknesses." Martinez pointed to a section of the report. "His original form is vulnerable to extreme cold. The prison doctors noted that when they tried to take blood samples, his blood would harden and become brittle at low temperatures." "The freezer units," Kim said suddenly. "In the kitchen storage. They reach temperatures of -100 degrees. "Exactly." Martinez nodded. "We might be able to freeze him solid, then shatter his body before he can reform." "But he's not just one body anymore," Diaz reminded them. "He's spread throughout the station. That's why we need to force him to consolidate," Martinez said. "And I think I know how." He pulled up the station schematics. "The hangar bay has a small scout ship. If we can make Howard believe we're trying to escape with his seed, he'll come after us with everything he has." "But we don't have the seed," Kim said. "You threw it at him." Martinez smiled grimly. "He doesn't know that. We'll make a decoy." Using materials from the maintenance room, they crafted a small box similar to the one that had held Howard's seed. Inside, they placed a power cell with a similar shimmer. "This won't fool him for long," Diaz warned. "It doesn't need to," Martinez replied. "Just long enough to get him where we want him." They made their way toward the kitchen storage area. The station was eerily quiet now. No alarms, no sounds of movement. It was as if everything had died. "I don't like this," Diaz whispered. "Where is he?" As if in answer, the station's intercom system crackled to life. Howard's voice echoed through the corridors. "I know what you're planning, Martinez," he said calmly. "You think you can trick me? I have Dr. Bennett's knowledge of biology, Officer Wright's understanding of the station, and the memories of every guard and prisoner I've consumed. There is nowhere you can hide from me." Martinez signaled the others to keep moving silently. "I've accessed your personnel files, Warden," Howard continued. "Born on Earth, parents killed in the Mars colony disaster. Foster care until age 18. Then the military, followed by a career in corrections. Always following rules. Always seeking order in chaos." The voice seemed to follow them as they moved through the corridors. "Did you know that when I absorb someone, I experience all their memories? Their fears? Their desires? Right now, I'm sorting through the minds of 58 humans and 5 other species. So much knowledge, so many secrets." They reached the kitchen area and found the large freezer units. Martinez checked the temperature controls. "-120 degrees," he confirmed. "This should work." Diaz looked skeptical. If we can get him in there, we need to split up, Martinez said. Kim, you need to get to the hangar bay and prepare the scout ship. Make it look like you're planning to escape. Diaz and I will set the trap here. I should stay with you, Diaz argued. No, if this fails, someone needs to be ready with Plan B, Martinez said. The reactor overload. Diaz hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. After Kim and Diaz left, Martinez prepared the freezer. He removed shelves to create an open space and disabled the emergency release from the inside. Then he took the decoy box and stood in the center of the kitchen. Howard, he shouted, I know you can hear me. I have your seed. For a moment, there was silence. Then a wet, slithering sound came from all directions at once. Liquid tendrils seeped from the vents, the drains, even the light fixtures. They converged on the floor, forming a growing pool that rose and took shape. Howard stood before Martinez, larger than before. His body rippled and shifted, occasionally showing faces of those he had consumed pressing against his skin like people. Drowning in mud. You're lying, Howard said. I have my seed. Do you? Martinez held up the decoy box. Check again. Howard's expression flickered with doubt. His hand transformed, stretching into a cavity where the seed should have been. When? He found nothing. Rage contorted his features. Where is it? He demanded. Safe, Martinez said. Away from you? Howard lunged forward. Martinez dodged and ran toward the freezer, Howard close behind. As Martinez reached the freezer door, Howard's tendril wrapped around his leg, tripping. Martinez fell, sliding across the floor into the freezer. The decoy box skittered away from him. Howard paused at the freezer entrance. You think I don't know what you're planning? Cold may affect my original form, but I've evolved, adapted, consumed creatures that thrive in the vacuum of space. Martinez scrambled to his feet. Then come get me. Howard stepped into the freezer. Immediately, his movements slowed. His skin began to harden, frost forming on his surface. But he kept coming. I will absorb you slowly, Howard said, his voice deepening as his vocal cords hardened. Feel every moment of your pain. Martinez backed away until he hit the far wall. Howard was still advancing, fighting against the cold. Martinez realized with horror that the freezer wasn't cold enough to stop him completely. Your plan has failed, Howard said, reaching for Martinez. Now you'll join the others. Suddenly, the station rocked with an explosion. Howard stumbled. Martinez used the moment to dodge past him and dash for the door. What have you done? Howard roared, turning to follow. Martinez reached the door and slammed it shut, engaging the external locks. Through the small window, he watched as Howard threw himself against the door, his body hardening but still mobile. The intercom crackled. It was Diaz. Martinez. Kim reached the hangar. I've initiated emergency protocols. The station is moving toward the star. We have 30 minutes before we're too close to escape. Martinez watched as Howard continued to pound on the freezer door. The metal was beginning to dent. The freezer isn't cold enough, Martinez said. He's still moving, still dangerous. Then get to the hangar, Diaz replied. We'll take the scout ship and finish this another way. Martinez took one last look at Howard, who stared back with eyes that burned with hatred despite the frost covering. His face. I'm on my way, Martinez said, turning to run. Behind him, the freezer door began to crack. Martinez ran through the corridors of Helios Station, the emergency lights flashing red. The entire structure groaned and vibrated as its engines pushed it toward the dying star. Diaz, what's our status? Martinez asked into his communicator. 25 minutes until we reach the point of no return, Diaz replied. The scout ship is ready. Kim is setting the final coordinates now. Martinez turned a corner and found himself face to face with what had once been Officer Wright. Her body was partially melted, her face frozen in a silent scream, but her legs moved forward in jerky steps. "Martinez," she said in Howard's voice. "You've only delayed the inevitable." Martinez didn't stop to talk. He fired his weapon at the ceiling above Wright's form, causing debris to fall between them. He continued running, knowing the barrier wouldn't hold Howard for long. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. The temperature was rising as they moved closer to the star. Martinez felt sweat dripping down his face as he ran. "Warning, hull temperature exceeding safety parameters," the station's computer announced. 15 minutes to critical failure. Martinez reached the elevator that would take him to the hangar level. As the doors closed, he saw liquid tendrils sliding along the floor toward him. The elevator began to descend. For a moment, Martinez had a chance to catch his breath. Then the elevator shuddered to a stop between floors. The lights flickered. "Did you think I wouldn't control every system on this station by now?" Howard's voice came through the speaker. "I've had months to learn, to absorb knowledge from everyone." Here, Martinez looked up at the emergency hatch in the elevator ceiling. As he reached for it, liquid began to drip through the seams. "I'm coming for you, Warden," Howard said. "And when I'm done with you, I'll take your ship and leave this place." Martinez climbed through the hatch, just as the liquid formed a pool on the elevator floor. He pulled himself up the elevator shaft, finding handholds on the maintenance ladder. Below him, Howard's liquid form surged upward. Martinez reached the hangar-level doors and forced them open. He squeezed through and sealed them behind him. The hangar was vast, designed to accommodate supply ships and prisoner transports. In the center sat the small scout ship, its engines humming with pre-launch preparations. "Kim, Diaz?" Martinez called. Diaz appeared at the scout ship's hatch. "Hurry, we don't have much time." Martinez ran toward the ship. Halfway there, the floor in front of him erupted as Howard burst through, his form now massive and barely humanoid. Faces pushed against his skin from the inside Bennett, Wright, and dozens of others Martinez didn't recognize. "You will not escape," Howard roared. "I have waited too long for this opportunity." Martinez backed away. "You won't survive either. This station is heading straight for the star." Howard laughed, a horrible sound that seemed to come from multiple throats at once. "Heat doesn't bother me anymore. I've adapted, and I can survive the vacuum of space long enough to reach your ship." From the scout ship, Diaz fired a plasma cutter. The beam sliced through Howard's mass, separating a portion of it. But the severed pieces simply flowed back together. "Run!" Diaz shouted to Martinez. "I'll hold him off." Martinez hesitated, then sprinted around Howard's massive form, heading for the far side of the hangar. Howard turned to follow him, ignoring Diaz. "That's right," Martinez called. "Come and get me." Howard surged forward, his body stretching and flowing across the hangar floor. Martinez reached a control panel and punched in a code. "Emergency airlock sequence initiated," the computer announced. A barrier rose from the floor, separating the hangar into two sections. Howard was caught in the middle, his body partially. On both sides, decompression in 3.2. The outer hangar doors opened to space. The vacuum instantly pulled everything toward it, tools, equipment, and the portion of Howard on that side of the barrier. His body stretched, trying to maintain its connection, but the force was too strong. With a sound like tearing fabric, Howard's body split. The section exposed to space froze instantly in the cold vacuum before being pulled out into the void. The portion on Martinez's side of the barrier writhed in pain. "Warning, 10 minutes to critical hull failure," the computer announced. Martinez ran back toward the scout ship where Diaz waited. As he approached, He saw Kim's body lying near the entrance, partially dissolved. "He got Kim," Diaz said grimly. "But the ship is ready. We need to go now." They boarded the scout ship and sealed the hatch. Through the viewport, they could see Howard's remaining mass recovering, forming into a smaller but still recognizable version of himself. "He's coming back," Diaz warned. Martinez took the pilot's seat. "Start the launch sequence." The scout ship's engines fired up. Howard reached the ship and began to climb its hull, his body flowing toward the seams around the hatch. "He'll get in before we can launch," Diaz said. Martinez looked at the control panel and at the hangar around them. "Maybe we don't need." To launch, he activated the ship's communication system. "Computer, override hangar safety protocols. Authorization, Martinez, Alpha 7 Delta." "Override accepted," the computer responded. "Open all hangar doors to space. Now." The remaining barriers in the hangar began to lift. The vacuum of space pulled at everything again, including the scout ship, which wasn't yet secured for launch. "What are you doing?" Diaz shouted. "We'll be pulled out." "That's the idea," Martinez said, strapping himself in. "Hold on." The scout ship slid across the hangar floor toward the open doors. Howard's form was stretched thin as he tried to maintain his grip on both the ship and the hangar floor. As they reached the edge, he made one final desperate lunge for the cockpit window. His face pressed against the glass, features contorted. With rage, the ship tumbled into space, Howard still clinging to its hull. The cold vacuum immediately began to affect him. His body hardened, turning brittle in the extreme cold. "Full power to engines," Martinez ordered. The scout ship's engines ignited at full thrust. The sudden acceleration tore Howard's frozen form from the hull, shattering him into thousands of fragments that dispersed into the void. Behind them, Helios Station continued its path toward the star, growing smaller in the distance. "Is he dead?" Diaz asked. Martinez watched the fragments of Howard drifting away. "I don't know, but he's scattered across space now, and without his seed, he may never recover." They turned their attention to the navigation controls. "Setting course for the nearest Galactic Corrections outpost," Diaz said. "We need to warn them about what happened here." Martinez nodded. "And make sure no one ever finds those fragments. Or that seed." As the scout ship accelerated away, Martinez looked back one last time. In the distance, Helios Station was now a tiny speck against the massive red star. Soon, it would be consumed entirely, taking with it any trace of Howard that might have remained. "The universe's most secure prison," Martinez said quietly. "In the end, it did its job. It contained the most dangerous predator ever known." Diaz looked at him. "You know they'll never believe what really happened." "They don't need to believe," Martinez replied. "They just need to be warned. Because if Howard somehow survived, if even a single cell of him is still out there." He left the thought unfinished as the scout ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of Helios Station and, hopefully, the creature who had made it his hunting ground. The stars streaked past as they escaped, carrying with them the truth about the prison that had one inmate left because he ate everyone else.